Hey guys, and welcome to the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report presented by Geico of Mobile, the first podcast to bring you the local inshore, offshore, and onshore fishing report, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. I'm Butch Theory. I'm joined today with Captain Richard Rutland of Cold-Blooded Fishing. How we doing today, Captain Richard?
Yee! Man, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, man. Weather's heating up, fishing's heating up. Things are looking all right.
Man, we couldn't ask for a more beautiful stretch of weather we've had in the past 2 weeks. Golly, you know, it's been blowing a little bit here and there, and I think one day last week we had a little front come through. But
Cooler temperatures are nice, though. I've been digging the mornings and the evenings.
Oh my goodness gracious! It's been about 57 to 60 degrees in the morning.
It's perfect.
How can you complain with that?
It's frolicking weather.
I had some guys on the boat the other morning. They're acting like it was actually some kids, and they acted like they're freezing to death. I'm like, oh my goodness,
I
can't get enough. You know,
that's how I am too.
Because by the end of about midday, you're pulling that hoodie off and pull my bibs off, and I'm like, golly, this is
feels great,
unbelievable.
Yep, for sure, man.
It's great. It's a great day any day weather-wise when you can go fishing and you don't shed a single ounce of sweat.
No doubt.
Actual sweat.
Right.
Yep,
no perspiration from the heat. I agree. I would think about 60 would be about perfect for me.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good
man, I always tell people I love the mornings when I have my hoodie on and shorts, and then about 9 o'clock I'm tearing that thing off. Yep. And that's just a glorious day. And the good thing that comes with that usually is that the fishing, your inshore fishing day is usually very prolonged. You know what I mean? You're not getting to a point where at 11 o'clock or noon it's getting hot and
it's not 110, right?
The water temperature's not getting too hot and the fish are shutting down. You can catch fish in shallow water the entire day, which is a ton of fun. I can't think of a better time of year.
For sure.
Yeah.
I do like fishing in the fall, but spring's nice because
it's
been cold not that we have much of a winter, but start to break out a little bit and stretch your wings. Well, man, you smell a little bit like fish. You must have had a good morning.
Man, I did. I tell you what, we did. We caught a few fish. I did a little scouting trip. I had a guy scheduled this morning, and he had something last minute come up and couldn't come down, and so I went scouting a little bit down around the island. We got a bunch of southeast wind coming through at least Thursday and Friday. And I didn't look at Saturday or Sunday.
But blow pretty good, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, 15 to 20 the next 2 days. So I wanted to go scout a few places that are going to work on a southeast wind like what we had. But I tell you what really, really, really just blew me out of the water was the water. By how clear it was. I felt like I have not seen water so clear since the last time I went to the Bahamas or something.
That's because you haven't, probably. It's been a while.
Man, the dirty water and the rain and all that has been so depressing.
And we probably started getting super heavy rain and muddy water in early November probably?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean,
it's been a long time.
It's been a very, very, very long road to hoe on the
so we're due for some clear water,
man. I know this is going to sound really, really, really strange when I say this, but it's almost too clear.
God, we can't make you happy, can we? Fish in muddy water, you gripe about that. Now it's too clear. Come on now.
But golly, it is like a breath of fresh air to run around Dolphin Island right now. It's clean out in the Gulf. On the Gulf side, it's clean in the middle of the bay there. Mississippi Sound is just gorgeous. I was down the Mississippi Sound down near Grand Bay yesterday, and I was kind of running around the sandbar and saw blackfish, and I stopped and I looked at my water depth because it was shallow, and I looked at my water depth and I expected it to say 2 feet, and it said 5, and I was like, man, I can see the bottom here, and I was like, golly.
That's way up there.
Unbelievable, man, but it is, like I said, it's a breath of fresh air, and I think everybody is gonna absolutely enjoy it. And I really think it's gonna as far as fishing goes, there's like a zillion doors just opened up to me. You know what I mean? I felt like I was boxed in one little place down there in the Mississippi Sound since we've had all this dirty water for the spring, and now I feel like I can go wherever I want to go.
The chains are unleashed.
It's gonna be fun.
Could let that 300 eat now, running all over the place. Well, good, man.
Yeah, since I've been holding her back for forever.
That's right. That's right. Yeah,
yeah,
right. Well, what else, man? The C word's loosening up a little bit. Be curious to see how that works out.
Right.
Hopefully we don't have any negative repercussions from that, but there's some tournaments coming up that are going to happen. We're going to have Angelo on to talk about some stuff going on with the Mobile Big Game Fishing Club.
Yep, I saw we're gonna have Memorial Day. I want to say I heard it's going to be most of their registration and everything's going to be online.
Yeah, I'm sure. Angelo could talk about that. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Oh yeah. Angelo will give us a lowdown on that here in a little while. But speaking of tournaments, on the front of Alabama Deep Sea Fishing Rodeo, we had a board meeting the other night, and we crowded in the room and had to make some decisions, some very tough decisions about what we're going to do with rodeo. We're really hoping that we could just have a rodeo as normal. But as we kind of went through the motions and everything, we had to decide to check everything up spectatorship wise, and we're gonna have a tournament, but it's only gonna be a tournament. We're not gonna the bands, entertainment, the liars contest, and those things, and those are traditions that we've had for forever. And of course, nobody's ever faced anything like this. Of course, we had the oil spill year, where that was on last time we didn't have a tournament. It was an oil spill.
Yeah,
and
it was a different beast.
It's
unprecedented times.
It is, but the good news is we're going to have a tournament, and it's just going to be a tournament. So there's not going to be any bands. There's not going to be any events. Unfortunately, we're not going to have like the fish tank for everybody to come down and see the fish. The one thing we will have is a leaderboard, and we're going to be up there writing the weights down with dry erase marker.
Back to dry erase days.
Man, well, we've had like a digital leaderboard past couple of years, so that's going to be kind of a
change,
kind of a throwback, I guess we'll say. So that'll be fun. And then we're not going to have like a sponsor tent or anything like that. We will be selling T-shirts and hats as usual, and we're going to spread that out. We're not going to have just one place we're doing it from. We'll probably have multiple locations on site that you can buy your T-shirt and everything from, and your hats. But
come weigh in, get your T-shirt.
That's right.
Better than not having a rodeo at all.
Man, I tell you, it's
like we talk about unprecedented times. Desperate
right.
times call for desperate measures, as they say.
That's it. We just
gotta do what you gotta
do. When you go through the whole thing and you think about how the whole flow of the rodeo site works, quote unquote, keep everybody safe.
Right. Certainly.
You don't want to pile them all in a tent or all in a line somewhere.
No.
So that was the best thing we could come up with to still have a tournament. And the person who I feel for the most is Corey Quint, who's our president this year. He's not going to get the tournament that a lot of presidents have gotten in the past. And man, Corey, we're everybody's thinking about you. It's going to be a great tournament. Hopefully we'll have I really think that we're going to have a record turnout. I hope we do, because people have been so cooped up.
True, yeah.
And so
ready to go catch something.
Oh yeah, everybody's going to be ready to go do something, and hopefully we can just cross our fingers and hope the weather holds up for us.
Got to get a break somewhere, right?
Man,
good Lord.
Golly, that would just be the freaking
icing on the cake.
Oh man, yeah, if we had like 3 days of rain, but that's not going to happen.
Definitely not going to happen.
No, the big man upstairs is going to take care of us.
That's right. Order you up some good weather.
We got up on our first report.
All right, man. Let's head on down to the Orange Beach beaches. Let's see what the Bama Beach Bum's up to. What'd you say, Mathew Isbell?
Hey guys, man, glad to be here. Thanks for having me. It's been so good. We talked about it last week or a couple weeks ago. I can't remember now, but I'm losing track of time because I'm so busy catching all these pompano, man. It's crazy.
That's a good problem to have.
Good right
hey
now.
Matthew, let me catch you up.
I can't even get over it. Every day we go out, it's just a really good day, and we're just having really good shots at catching our limits, and it's just been so fun, man. I'm so excited.
Man, Matthew, I want to apologize for Butch, because he introduced you as the Bama Beach Bum. We all know you're the ultimate Alabama Beach Bum, okay?
Sorry.
Ultimate.
We'll forgive him.
It's ultimate, okay?
The UBB.
Hey, get it straight, okay, Butch?
Don't let it happen again.
Golly, man.
I apologize.
He is the ultimate
you gotta
beach
get it right.
bum. All right, dog, tell us about these pompano, man. What they biting on? You figured them out on jigs yet? Last time we talked, we were on jigs.
Yeah, I haven't had an opportunity myself to get out there much for jigs. I did a couple weeks ago, and walking the beach and throwing a jig for pompano can be challenging just because you can't see the fish. You got to spend a lot of time, because you're basically just waiting for those schools to come by, and you got to kind of luck up in a way and have that jig going through that school when it happens to be passing by. It can be done, and I had caught a couple of pompano that way myself when I had a day to go do that. But we've been doing mostly set rig fishing here because I've been running trips. That's the primary way that we target them. And right now that they haven't been too picky. There's been a couple of days where we've run into that they wouldn't eat anything but sand fleas here lately. It's 4 or 5 days. There were 2 days that I can remember we still had a multiple bait spread, which I always recommend that. Like I always tell people, you want to have multiple bait options because you just don't ever know. And when you can fish with multiple rods, it makes it pretty easy to give yourself some selection. And the only thing we could pick them up on were sand fleas. It's not like that every day. I mean, some days, like today, for example, we caught them on pretty much everything. I mean, they weren't picky, and that's most days. But for whatever reason, you'll find that day where it's like you just can't get them to bite anything other than maybe shrimp or maybe fish bites. That happens where that's the only thing we can get them to eat, or maybe those sand fleas. So just make sure you vary up your baits. But most days right now, they just have not been super picky. They've been chewing down pretty good.
Well, that's interesting you say that because I just got done talking to Captain Bobby here a little while ago, and Bobcat was talking about, and I've been experiencing the same thing inshore. We've been doing very well catching speckled trout on artificials up to about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. And it's kind of like hit or miss whether you're going to get them real good on artificial. We've had been switching over and using live bait.
Well, last week, Ultimate Beach Bum said that Fishbites, sand flea color and flavor were outperforming the ghost shrimp.
Yep.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. There was one day we got out there and I was shocked, like, because it just the fact that it was beating that natural bait, I was just blown away.
I asked Captain Bobby, and I knew the answer before I asked him, but why do you think that is? Why do you think these fish make a switch from chewing down artificials to wanting and only being able to catch them on live bait? You have this kind of like great divide.
Sure.
His answer was how plentiful the bait is.
Competition.
You know what I'm saying? So when there's not a whole lot of shrimp around or not a whole lot of sand fleas out there or whatever the fish are foraging on, and then
imitation takes the place.
That's right.
But whenever there's a ribeye, you're not gonna choose something lesser than that.
That's right. Yeah. So I don't know if that's the same deal with the sand fleas out there with the pompano. I know pompano's a really picky fish. Hey, Ultimate, let me tell you a story, dog.
Bring it.
I went wade fishing with Captain Bobby. We had like an off day where the wind was blowing real bad last week one day. I think it was last Friday. We were wade fishing the west end of Dolphin Island, and I caught a stud pompano on a slick lure. Okay?
Yeah.
On a slick lure.
Let me guess. You didn't have your phone to take a picture to prove it.
Hey, well, I still got the fillet in my.
That's right. That's proof.
Yeah. No, and I tell you, I'm glad we went down there with zero intention of keeping any fish whatsoever. And I threw my stringer on my wade belt, and I said, I told them, I said, man, y'all not keeping any fish. I knew they weren't, And I said, I'm just bringing my stringer just in case we gut hook a fish or one gets bad or whatever. Because you don't want to release a bad fish, Anyway, I caught that pompano, man. I was like getting that stringer out, and I had a hard time getting it strung through the pompano and everything. But I've got plans for him tonight, actually.
Ooh, nice.
Oh yeah,
nice,
man. It's not very often I get to eat pompano, so I was really excited about it.
Delicious.
Came up and ate a mullet imitation though. Explain that one to me, Ultimate.
Well, I've heard, I haven't personally accomplished this, but I know people that are credible that have caught pompano on like topwater lures, on jerk baits, twitch baits. Like they've caught them on those bait fish style lures. And we forget that I've never seen any type of bait fish in a pompano's belly. I'm sure they do eat it at times, but we do forget that pompano are in the jack family.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say.
Which kind of sounds like a slap in the face to the pompano because it's such a good eating fish. And when we think jack, we think Jack Crevalle, which is obviously not very sought after. But they're in the same family of fish, so I'm sure they have their tendencies where they're uber aggressive, and it may be just like the jacks. I mean, they're gonna react to something that's moving by their face. They're just gonna eat it because they're jack and they're aggressive, and that's what they do. So I think that instinct for pompano kicks in sometimes, and it's like, oh, I gotta eat. I gotta, whatever this is, it's in my way. It's ticking me off, and I'm gonna eat it. So I think that aggression just comes out from them from time to time, especially with those bigger fish. So if you caught that stud, I mean, I think I think that aggression just kind of takes over, and that's just their instinct, and they eat it.
I knew it wasn't a speckled trout, or I either thought it was a giant, like, state record speckled trout, or it was a Jack Crevalle. I really thought it was a Jack because it's so funny. And we've talked about this before on the podcast. You know, like the Jack Crevalles in Alabama are either like hardtail size, which are about like, 10 or 12 inches long, or they're freaking
40 pounds,
or they're 29 pounds. You know what I mean?
I say that I don't know if we've discussed that, but I tell that to people all the time. I'm like, it's frustrating to me that it's that way, because like I would be stoked if I could go to the beach and catch like 5 to 10 pounds.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
I'd be all over
be perfect.
Like, it'd be so much fun. But we don't have those fish. Like, where are those fish?
I don't know. We've asked that question a couple of times on here. I have no idea. I think they live down in Florida.
No doubt.
They're all over there. But
the grass is green. The grass is greener down there.
There's got to be some really scientific stuff going on.
The sun shines brighter.
We don't have 5 to 10 pound Jack Crevalle anywhere around here. It's amazing.
Agreed.
Who knows, man? Who knows? Well, what else has been going on besides pompano?
Yep. Any specks in the surf, redfish? Tell me what else is going on.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to start really focusing on trying to do some speckled trout fishing. That's something that I kind of save. We don't do a lot of it on trips. It's not a pleasant day, a lot of the times to go on speckled trout fishing in the surf. I mean, you got to walk a
lot of walking and casting.
Trying to carry live bait out there just doesn't work. So you really got to go artificial. And there's sometimes a special case where somebody really wants to go do that. And you're usually not going to have like a hammer day, speckled trout fishing in the surf over here on this side. And so you usually get a few fish and they're super quality, but you got to spend some time and you got to walk a lot. And I just haven't had a chance to go do it myself, but I know they're showing up in there. I've seen a few in the surf because on these clear water days, you'll see them cruising by real close to the beach. So I know they're getting in there. Definitely going to be devoting some time for some videos here real soon, getting out there and trying to catch some of those speckled trout.
Nice.
But I know they're there, so we'll get after them. But we are still seeing a lot of Spanish. And the Spanish, the last 2 years, I remember we talked about this some last year, they've been getting really a lot closer to the beach than I remember in years past. I don't know what that is. Like 3, 4, 5 years ago, I would only ever see schools of Spanish like a pretty decent ways off the beach popping and not really much in casting range unless you kind of waited out and had a diamond jig or something that you could really fling out there. But these Spanish, I mean, they've been running like within 30 yards of the beach. I mean, well within casting range. And we've been picking up some on set rigs. If you want to take the time and walk and throw, I keep it tied on because as soon as I start seeing them jump out of the water, I just start throwing for them. I keep a diamond jig tied on and ready to go for them. And that's just, it's kind of weird that the last 2 years they've been so close to the beach consistently. I don't know what that's about, but we'll take it. It's always fun to throw a few Spanish in for dinner for the night.
Heck yeah.
Hey, quit asking questions, man. Just catch the fish, right?
That's right.
Just
catch what's biting.
Don't complain about it, right?
So there's going to be a pretty hard, I think it's about to switch to the southeast. It's going to be a pretty hard wind. How is that going to mess up your next couple of days or this weekend? What are you going to do differently? I know I get questions all the time on our Facebook page and people emailing us asking about rough weather while you're surf fishing.
Great
How do you
question.
change your tactics?
It started
like that?
affected us some yesterday because the wind started coming out of the east about mid-morning yesterday, pretty hardcore. And we got a rip current warning starting this morning, and I think it's lasting through Saturday morning. And I always pay attention to that because when you get those rip current warnings, you're going to have some pretty strong current to deal with in the surf, and usually some pretty rough surf associated with that. Tomorrow specifically is going to be really tough. We got some pretty big swells that are supposed to be coming in conjunction with the wind. It's going to be a tough day anywhere you fish tomorrow. But what we had to do yesterday is really we had to pick our spots based on the conditions, and I'll explain that. There's every beach, and we talked about this, but every beach along Alabama's Gulf Coast is set up differently as far as structure goes in the way that the bar is in relation to the beach and how far that bar out is. Every beach, the bar there's some beaches that it's 20 yards off the beach. There's some beaches that it's 150 yards off the beach, so, and it changes. So you've got to pick your spots based on where you can get to deep water. And if you have a bar that's fairly close to the beach, to get to the backside of that bar is usually a decent cast. So like if it's 20 or 30 yards off the beach, to actually get to the backside of that bar, you may have to cast 75 to 100 yards to get to that deeper water where those pompano may be hanging. So trying to cast it into a southeast wind or a south wind that's blowing 20 miles an hour in your face, it's kind of hard to do. So it's better to find those beaches that have a bar that's further out, that you've got that deeper water right up next to the beach, that you don't have to make those long casts, where you're going to find fish still swimming, in that 20 to 30 yard range off the beach in that deeper water. So, and that's what we had to do yesterday. We had to really move around as that wind kind of dictated what we could do and how far we could cast.
Let me ask you a couple questions. So number one, I want to ask you about your weight that you're using out there, because I know when it gets as rough, it's going to be tomorrow. We're talking about tomorrow and Friday, so Thursday and Friday. It's going to blow. We're forecasted, I just know in South Mobile Bay, when I checked it this morning, 15 to 20 knots out of the southeast. So,
so Dolphin Island says Thursday, east-southeast 20, Friday, east-southeast 16. So
So it's gonna be pretty sporty out there. So a couple of things I'm thinking about.
Nautical. Nautical.
Definitely thinking nautical. But a couple of things I'm thinking about. I know the little bit of surf fishing I've done when I was in the military. I lived in Jacksonville, Florida. I did a little surf fishing. We use these type of weights that had these little
Sputniks.
They had little arms
on
them.
Sputniks.
And they would kind of dig in.
Yeah.
Are you using those? And then the other thing too is when you're casting, are you trying to cast straight in? Like if you have it, like I think about a southeast wind coming in straight at the beach. Are you trying to cast straight into that, or are you walking up the beach from where you want to fish and like almost casting like almost southwest to maybe kind of like not be throwing straight into it and throw across it, to get out a little farther or something like that? Are you doing any little tricks like that? Or like I said, I don't live out on the beach doing that kind of stuff, but I would just think that's what I might do.
Yeah, no, great question. First part of that, as far as Sputniks, I don't personally use them because we don't get a ton of days where you have to have them.
Where you got like that much current or wave action to where it won't hold.
Yeah. We don't, we don't get a ton of super rough surfs. Even tomorrow, if you're fishing the right beaches, like I just explained before, you can probably still get your pyramid weights to stick. If I can't get a 4 or 5 ounce weight to stick, I mean, the Sputnik may stick, but the conditions are going to be so bad. Like, it's honestly just not even worth. It's going to be miserable out there, getting sandblasted, with a 25 mile an hour wind or 20 mile an hour wind.
My God,
it's just not a pleasant experience, and we just don't get a ton of days where it's that bad or not doable. So I don't personally use them, but yes, Sputnik weights work incredibly well. I have used them in the past, and they do hold great. And you can even use, what's nice about them is you can use less weight and it holds better. For instance, like a 2 ounce Sputnik may have the same holding capability as a 4 ounce pyramid. So there's definitely some advantages there to them. They are a little expensive. They cost you more money. I lose a lot of lead, and I'm always thinking about how I can save money. And usually we just don't need them. So
ultimate, you got to quit being cheap, man. Ultimate, you got to quit being cheap.
But yeah, as far as the wind, I'm a bum, man. I'm an ultimate bum.
I forgot.
Save my money.
My bad. That's my bad. Proceed.
But no, it's a great option if you need it. As far as strategically casting with the wind, I do cast into the wind. I tell people that all the time. And when you're surf casting, you definitely, a couple of things. You want to make sure that you really lean into that cast when you're casting into the wind, and you've got to keep that weight low. I mean, you can't pop it up. You can't throw a pop fly on your surf cast when you're casting into the wind.
Line drive
situations going on. And what I do, because usually when we're running trips and when you're surf fishing, we're going to have 3 or 4 rods generally set up, which is a lot harder to manage when you've got a really strong crosswind or south wind or anything, because it's going to put a big bow in your line. And when you cast, of course, that lead's flying through the air. that wind's going to be carrying that line, whatever direction, and it's going to be obviously drifting your lure and your line and everything in a direction that you don't want it to go. So you really have to compensate for that. And what I do, like if we've got a southwest wind or I will say southeast wind, since that's what we're dealing with, I guess, tomorrow, I'm going to start on the west side of my spread. I'm going to start and move that direction, and I'm basically going to stack my baits on top of each other. So I'm going to start with the one that's furthest to the west. I'm going to cast into the wind, and that bait is going to drift a little to the west, because it's getting pushed with that southeast wind. It's going to drift over to the west just a little, and it's going to I want it to end up in front of where that rod is. So I try to gauge it enough to where I can cast and then end up where it drifts to where it's lined up straight. And then I'm going to move to the next one and do the same thing. So I'm kind of just stacking them on top of each other, because if you don't do that, you're going to end up throwing over your lines and getting crossed up, and that's just a mess and a hassle. So I try to be strategic about how I position my baits.
For sure, man. That's a great report, man. We appreciate that. We're going to get that tip from you before we let you go. This week's onshore tip is brought to us by KillerDock. Today, we're going to profile another common form of dock dysfunction. It's called dirty dock. Have you ever cleaned up a nice mess of fish and then watched your wife's face in disgust when she sees your dirty dock as a result? It's happened to all of us who have cleaned fish on old, wooden fish cleaning tables that don't slope towards the water. You need dock enhancement. KillerDock fish cleaning stations are marine-grade aluminum coated with a ceramic finish that makes cleaning your dirty dock a cinch. The scales and slime drain directly into the water or the slots, through the legs, or through the slots. You choose the style. Check out the best fish cleaning stations known to mankind at KillerDock.com. What you think for an onshore tip this week?
Man, before he does the tip, man, we need to get Ultimate a mobile killer dock, right?
Get a load on his beach card or something?
Oh my goodness, I mean, Ultimate's dealing with a dirty dock. You
No
know
doubt.
What I mean?
Oh yeah.
I mean, come on.
We need to invent something that they need to come out with that. That would be helpful.
There's no invention.
They can make you anything they want.
There's
somehow. That'd be great.
No, there's no inventing. They've got it already for you, man. We just need
got to get it made.
Oh yeah, we need to get it in your hands.
That's right.
Yeah, we need to get Ultimate a mobile killer dock.
I like it. Hey, let's tee them up.
Cleaning all these pompano.
That's right.
For the tip, I would say something that we forget, especially when we get pompano on the brain and we're surf casting for pompano. And generally, most of the time, these fish are deeper, and that's where you want to focus. And you're usually making some pretty long casts. We tend to neglect that first 20 to 30 yards of water right off of the beach, and unless we're focusing on other species that we talk about here. That's where you're generally going to find your whiting, your slot redfish, your puppy drum. They're always hanging in that shallower water up close to the beach. But you will pick up pompano there, and we've caught yesterday afternoon. We caught the majority of our fish in that 20 to 30 yard range, and our deep rods were not getting hit. So, and I see so many people on the beach. They're always just slinging that bait as far out as they can. And again, you will catch fish there, most of the times, but there are times when you may not be catching fish. And we forget about that first 20 to 30 yards of water. So keep that. If you got a few rods, always just, it's uncomfortable a lot of the time, because it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like you're fishing in an area that's going to be
right. There's
holding
no way
fish.
I can catch fish this close.
But don't forget to throw those close rods in.
I can relate with you a little bit. Fishing from a boat for a living, always when I make a cast, like if I'm fishing a popping cork, or even when I'm fishing a slick lure or something like that, when I get within a boat length of
you just reel it in
of my lure.
But how many bites do you get within a boat length?
Oh my God!
You got to keep working it. You got to follow it through.
You do, and you have to. It's one of those things like what you're talking about. Ultimate is you got to make yourself do that.
Yep.
I know when I get within a boat length. When my cast gets within a boat length of me, I usually reel the lure in and want to make another cast. You know what I'm saying? I feel like there's a halo around the boat that I'm not going to catch a fish inside.
Not true. Fake news.
No, it is fake news. It is fake news. Some of the time, I wouldn't say 100% of the time, but it's fake news, and you have to make yourself work it back all the way back to the boat sometimes.
Yep.
I do have a question for you, though.
Come on with it.
This is something I've been thinking about. The reason is because I've done bass fishing videos here lately. just because of the shutdown. I was doing a little bit of bass fishing, and people in my videos were getting on to me because I would, after I worked the lure through a particular area, I would reel it in, and do what you were saying, because I wasn't fishing basically, right off of the bank, close to me, because I just didn't feel like there was an opportunity right in front of me there.
Fishing right.
But my question is, do you think that by taking less time to work water closer to you, whether it be close to the boat where you may not think there may be a fish? I know we catch fish there sometimes, or a place that's not as fishy. Do you think it was better to spend your time fishing the areas that you think may be holding fish? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, because if you reel in quicker, it allows you to get another cast and put it in an area that, you're actually fishing, whether it be a structure or a hole or a pocket or, whatever the heck it is you're throwing at, and fishing that instead of spending the more time that it's going to take you to continue to work that lure all the way to the boat. Does that question make sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. I'm going to say one thing, and then I'm going to answer your question. Ultimate, I didn't know you were a bass hole.
Ultimate.
I love bass fishing. That's what I grew up doing. That's what most people did.
Ultimate bass bum.
Coming down here. And so I still love bass fishing. It gets me going.
Ultimate, I think it depends on what species that you're targeting. I think bass fishing, okay, they're a fish that is not near as spooky as a fish that I chase, which is a speckled trout or a redfish. Okay, I think I put redfish and bass in the same category a lot of times. Speckled trout are super spooky. You know what I mean? They can in me fishing from a boat. 90% of the time, the boat moving along in the water. If you're in shallow water, they can feel
the displacement for sure.
They can feel the displacement of the boat through the water, and I think that turns them off sometimes. So I have to have a certain amount of water depth that I feel comfortable in my boat before I get there. But anyway, I think bass fishing, 100% yes, work the lure all the way back to the boat. Red fishing, yes, work the lure all the way back to the boat.
I think it's a tricky question because you got to be confident.
Loaded question.
You got to be confident where you're casting. You got to be in the strike zone. You have to feel confident where you're working your lure. So if you feel more confident at the end of your cast as opposed to closer to the boat or the bank, then that's where you fish.
That's right. Man, I know when I make a cast, as soon as I click my reeling gear, man, I'm like,
ready to roll.
I always feel like that's what's going to happen.
That's
it's
what
like
I'm saying.
Out on the end of my cast,
Good question, Matthew. We like it, man.
Hey, Matthew, that was a great report, man. I really enjoyed going through all that with you there,
great
man.
Tip.
Yep. Oh, yeah, I think a lot of our listeners are really going to gain a lot from that little bit of conversation we had there, man. Hey, if somebody wants to book a trip with you to get the ultimate experience on the beaches of Alabama, how do they do that, man? How do we get a hold of you?
Yeah, best way is my website. That's staybummy.com. It's just STAYBUMMY.
Awesome, man. We appreciate it, Matthew. And we'll talk to you soon, bud.
Man, I'm waiting for you to change that website to ultimatebeachbum.com. And I know it's coming.
It's going to be on the header.
I'm
man.
Hey, I'm working for you here, okay?
Advocate over here.
All right, buddy, man. Hey, great talking to you as always, Hoss, man. Keep whacking them.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Richard, let's head on down to Dauphin Island, Mississippi Sound. Let's head to the Marshall. Let's see what Captain Bobby Abruscato is doing, 18 fishing adventures. How you doing today, Captain Bobby?
How you guys doing?
We're doing all right, man. Just telling some fish stories. It's always a good day when you can sit around and talk fishing with your buddies.
That's exactly right. As I tell everybody, it's my second favorite subject.
That's right. Ain't no doubt.
Yeah, man. I'll tell you, we continue to have great trips. It's it's May. We went through the full moon period, and the fish really reacted well. We had wind directions shifting. We fished 2 or 3 days where the wind would be out of the south, move down towards the island and catch fish, and then it'd come around to the east and northeast and move back up to the north and catch fish. And, it's that typical spawning pattern. You're catching these lots of male trout gathered around some of the females and then occasionally catch some of the bigger females in the school, but their numbers are no problem. The quality's really been good. Had a chance to do a little bit of wading and caught some fish doing that. Some of the fish we kept, even, we don't keep anything bigger than 20 inches, but even like the smaller or the medium-sized fish, like the 18 inches, the roe sacks in them right now are just huge, so that's telling me that there's a really nice spawn going on. These fish are just the salinity's right, the water temperature's right for these fish to be really spawning well, and that always bodes well for the future for us. Knowing that there's a lot of babies getting made, to keep us in fish for the years to come.
So whenever you talk about fish spawning right now, what does that make you look for as a fisherman if you're targeting those trout? How does they have to have a certain salinity level. So, with the bay being flooded like it was, up until a couple of weeks ago or a week or so ago, you had to get down towards the west end of the island or down in the Sound and then on the Gulf beaches, because they won't even spawn unless the salinity levels are up to about 15 parts per thousand. They won't even spawn. So the first thing you got to do is find salinity. The other thing you got to do is find hard bottom in the form of sand or rock or grass or shell, particularly shell, which we have a lot of down in the Sound. Those are the key components in the trout spawn, and you got to find those areas. The positive to the flooding of the bay, the fresh water coming down the bay, is it really kind of narrowed down the areas that we could fish in that had the right salinity for it, which was down in the Sound, as I mentioned. And so that's the kind of stuff we look for, when we're trying to find these spawning schools at this time of year that they're doing.
I always think it's kind of funny, I know as well as you do, you and I, we take a lot of local folks fishing, and we have these flood periods. Everybody just has this notion that, there's a ton of fresh water in the bay, so man, the fish aren't biting, you know what I mean? And what I always think about for that is, well, they're all somewhere and they have to live, they have to eat, so they're going to bite somewhere.
They got to, that's right.
And whether or not you can catch them in that dirty water or not, that's one thing. But going and finding where there is some clean water is another. So I really like what you're talking about there with the spawning activity happening over that sand and grass and shell and all that shallow water stuff. That's my jam. This is when I really get really excited part of the year, and I know Captain Bobby does too.
So, and that's the thing, and I get a lot of comments about that. Is like we're catching fish in water that, normally people would say this looks a little bit too off color or muddier than what I thought we would have been fishing. But particularly when the sun gets up a little bit, and then today was a classic example of it. The sun got up a little bit, and I was kind of seeking out that little bit of off color. When I say off color, you got to be real careful when you start talking about off color freshwater versus off color saltwater. If you're in off color freshwater, you are wasting your time trying to catch speckled trout. But what we're looking for is these it's just a little bit of stirred up water, particularly fishing shallow, to catch those fish in. So that's what you look for, particularly like when the sun gets up, on bright days like we've had the last couple days.
Richard and I were talking about in the intro just about how clear the water is and how things are changing up and how you can, with the mornings being much cooler now, which is awesome during the spring, it kind of prolongs your trout bite, throughout the morning and into the midday. Are you doing anything different midday?
Especially in the shallow water,
That's right.
Water bite, especially it pushes it well up into the morning.
Yes, sir. Whenever that happens, are you throwing anything different during the middle of the day?
I kind of let the fish decide what they want, just probably since the last time I was on, we were using all artificial bait. In my last few trips, I brought some live bait. And the only thing I really noticed is they're still fishing the same techniques, which is popping corks, slick lures if I'm wading, but popping corks out of the boat. And I've noticed that live bait, and it always happens this time of year, you can just about set your clock by it. You're going to probably about mid-May, I'm going to have to start carrying live bait. And I've noticed when I get up into the morning a little ways, that live bait really takes over. You were kind of tit for tat, live bait versus artificial bait early in the morning. But man, when you get up in the morning, that live bait's taking over. So that's about the only thing that I'm doing different right now. And that's just the way I do it. It seems like every year about this time of year, I have to start carrying some bait. And I still kind of keep at least one or two of us still throwing artificial bait to help cover water, but that live bait really starts to take over, this time of year.
Yes, sir.
I've really noticed that too here my past couple of trips where, like you're saying, you can kind of get started with artificial in the morning, and then once that sun kind of gets on up and really airs everything out, it gets tough, and live bait really is clutch. Why do you think that happens, Cap?
I'll tell you something. Well, first of all, I think the reason it happens this time of year, first of all, not so much the time of the day, but talking about at least the time of the year, is because there's so much more bait in the bay now. In the last 2 weeks, I say the bay, I'm talking about our whole system down there, the sound and the bay, but I'm starting to see these bird schools diving on shrimp, which is telling me that these waves of shrimp are coming in. I'm seeing a lot more bait than we were seeing a month ago. Certainly 2 months ago, but a month ago, there's a lot more bait in the water. And I think what happens is when those fish have that much more to choose from, they're just a little bit more picky. It's kind of like we are, when food's scarce for us, we're apt to eat just about, whatever we can eat. If you're driving down the highway and you pull into a truck stop with a hot dog turning there, it's been turning on one of those little grills for about 3 days. It looks pretty tempting, but you drive down the airport boulevard and there's every kind of cuisine on every corner. You can take your pick, and that's kind of where we're at right now. And that's what I think it is as far as the time of year. As far as the time of day, and I think it's one of these kind of things where trout are sight feeding fish, ambush feeders, and they're going to start feeding as soon as they can see to feed. So your best bite's going to be first thing in the morning. So, they're more willing to eat what's available to them. Whereas you get a little later in the day, you're getting those fish in those schools that maybe haven't eaten, maybe a little less aggressive, and you got to put something in front of them like a real bait to get them to go ahead and push over that fence and bite.
Yeah, man, my ears perked up when you said bird schools, and I maybe thought we were talking about fall fishing or something in the Delta. Do you remember what that was like?
Oh my God, yeah.
Back in the day,
vaguely, because it's been so long.
Well, Bobcat, we're gonna get Butch here to read in you got the Hey Cap question this week. I'm gonna get Butch over here to read it in for you, man. You're the lucky winner this week.
Oh, boy.
That's right. This week's Hey Cap is brought to us by Foster Contracting, Fortified Roofing Pros. Richard, you know what I love about this podcast is we have the local knowledge, but we are broadcast across the entire world, right next to the biggest names in podcasting. Often when a business is small, you miss the professionalism you get with larger companies. That's not the case with Fortified Roofing Pros. They're a family-owned business that is big enough to get the job done, but small enough to care. If you're looking for quality construction with a dependable, licensed, and certified fortified roofing professional, give the Fortified Roofing Pros a call at 251-973-9999. Remember to support the local businesses that make your local podcast possible, and check them out at fortifiedroofingpros.com. All right, man. This week's Hey Cap comes from Mike Sweat. Mike Sweat says, "Hey Cap, my favorite fishing is wade fishing for specks. This time of year is really good around Dolphin Island for really nice trout. With the water being as muddy close to shore as it is now, would I be better off finding clean water in the boat instead of wade fishing the spots around the island? And what bait would you use in dirty water?" I think we got multiple things to talk about here.
You do, yeah. That's kind of like one of those questions that has several answers. But first of all, if you like wade fishing, you're fine wade fishing right now. And I don't know how long ago he sent that question in, but there's the water's cleared up dramatically in the last 2 weeks around the island. So, I wouldn't be afraid. Leeward, you certainly have to get in some leeward water, if it's blowing really hard the way it has blown. It typically does this time of year, but the way it's blown in the last couple of weeks, you're going to have to get in some leeward water to get any kind of decent looking water. But as long as you're in salty water, you still got the chance to catch fish. And all it needs to be, if you're wading, if you're in waist deep, maybe chest deep water, if you can see your waist, or if you're in waist deep water, if you can see your knees, you're in plenty clear enough water to catch fish. So dirty water is relative. Dirty water to me and to you and
Sure.
to Butch might be different things, and to Mike might be different things. But generally speaking, if you can see a couple feet down or a foot and a half down in a narrow water column, you're in plenty clear enough water to catch fish, as long as it's salty. As far as what bait I'd use, first thing in the morning, if you're in off-colored water or clear water and there's low light, you got to throw a top water. You have to throw a top water, because even if you start getting bit, a lot of times if the fish don't hook up, it's going to tell you that they're there and they're wanting to bite, and you can make an adjustments. A lot of times you'll catch them. More often than not, you'll catch them wading. But that's the bait I would use. And I would throw the top water until the fish tell you they don't want it anymore. But the top water bait, the other thing about talking about off-colored water, a top water bait's a great lure to throw, or type of lure to throw in off-colored water, because the fish are looking up at the silhouette, they're hearing the noise, they're seeing the wake of the lure. So a lot of times in off-colored water, you can get fish to bite if they're there, they'll bite that because they can see that. They're looking up there and they can see that silhouette of that fish and hear all that noise. So it's a great lure to throw in off-color water conditions. So that would be my first pick. And then certainly when the sun gets up, if you're in any kind of decent water clarity, we just throw the slick lure almost exclusively now, is the lure we go to. So that's what I do.
I want to say it's episode 108 or 107, maybe even 109. Captain Bobby, you go much more in depth on, it may have been a Hey Cap question. I don't remember if it was a tip or a Hey Cap question, but you talk about, low light and dirty water and what lures and what colors you would use during that. So make sure you check that out, Mike. And we were just talking about Richard and I, where right now, as clean as the water is, wherever you are, if there's a hard south wind and you're on a Gulf beach on Dolphin Island, it's going to be turned up a little bit if it's blowing 15 or 20 and there's some 3-foot breakers. So that's a little bit different. I don't call that dirty water.
That or fish that out of the boat anyway when it blows like that. So that kind of narrows down where you need to be fishing.
That's right. Bobby, have you started to notice any colors, like when you're talking about like wanting to throw a slick lure and versus a top water? Have you noticed any colors that do better for you one way or the other, whether the water is air clear or kind of dinged up a little bit?
Yeah, the darker colors when the sun gets up a little bit and the clearer water seem to be the ones like the goblin color. The goblin colors just got it done for us, last week. And actually, that was a couple of boat trips. The goblin color got it done, which is dark color. So, very generally speaking, it's like more of a darker color when the sun gets up. But earlier in the morning, we like that. Of course, the B-Cat. I'm going to brag on that lure a little bit. I'm going to. But the B-Cat in low light conditions. But a low light and off-color water, either the B-Cat or his new color, which is called the Cold Night, which is the cool beans with the chartreuse tail. But the ones with the chartreuse tail in the lower light conditions really seem to make a big difference.
Awesome, man. We appreciate that. Thanks, Mike, for that question. Mike's going to get a prize pack from the slick lure. Make sure you email us at alabama@bestfishingreport.com to redeem your slick lures. Y'all make sure and get on that Hey Cap question. Y'all can also email the questions to alabama@bestfishingreport.com or check out our Facebook page at Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report. Captain Bobby, as always, enjoyed talking with you, and that's a great report, man. We appreciate it. Well, Captain Bobby, I know things are heating up. If you have any openings coming up, what's the best way for folks to get a hold of you?
Easiest way is through the website, which is ateamfishing.com, and there's a phone number on there or a contact us form. You can just send us in via email. If you are technologically competent, which I'm not, but
you can't even say
most other people are, and they can just send it in that way.
Awesome, Captain Bobby. We'll talk to you soon, bud. We appreciate it. Make sure you keep whacking them.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
All right, man, let's head on down to Orange Beach Marina and see what Angelo DePaola, the Coastal Connection's up to. What'd you say, Angelo?
What's happening, guys? Just enjoying a bluebird day here in Orange Beach. It's a little breezy.
You guys seeing some population pick up down there, some folks getting out and about?
They opened the restaurants up, I guess, Monday afternoon, opened the beaches up 2 weeks ago. It was like a light switch went off. It's not full-blown summer yet, but that typically doesn't happen until next weekend. So
that's right.
Well, let's move on from that negative talk.
What's coming up?
Yeah, man, you heard what's shaking fishing wise, man? You been doing anything down there?
Well, last week when it was calm, I don't think there was a species out here that people weren't catching. Lots of amberjacks. The tuna bite has been as good as I've seen it in several years, with everything from lots of 40, 50-pounder schoolies, some jumbo class fish. I know Scooter Porto on the Florida Lee last week caught 6 fish and 6 blue marlin in a single trip.
Really?
So the live bait bites been going on. And, we always talk about the daytime swordfish bite just because it's gotten really popular and it's easy to do because you don't have to go spend the night. But the nighttime bite, for the guys that have been doing it, I've got a couple friends. They all went out. Every one of them at least caught 1 fish. 2 of them caught 3 fish, some pretty nice ones, 70 to 150-pound fish.
It's a nice fish.
Yeah, that's cool. Man, it's good to hear that the tuna fishery is coming back around. We're all wondering last year,
It's a couple of years we've been talking about how it was just different, just smaller fish.
Just
and
different and almost non-existent, you know what I mean, where people are really, really struggling a lot, and it's really good. Of course, like here, early spring, you have the guys.
lumps over there.
The lumps,
Yeah.
the shallow water bite. For tuna, everybody's just wrecking them over that way. And then now we're kind of moving into this summertime deal, and it sounds like there's lots of fish being caught all over the place. Is that what you're hearing down your way, Angelo?
Yeah, lots of people catching them on light bait, lots of people catching them on the chunk. A fair amount of open water fish. I mean, I have a friend that was coming in from the spur the other day and saw some bluefins jumping and threw out a swordfish bait, skipped it across the top, and caught a 111-inch fish.
Dang.
Holy.
I mean, how awesome is that?
That's wild.
That's incredible.
Yep. I know Chris Hood and them a couple weeks ago caught a big bluefin.
Man.
Yeah. Yeah, that same weekend.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And, I know another buddy of mine caught one that weekend on a lure off to the east. So there's plenty of fish here, and wahoo bite's been good. So it's just kind of like, really, what do you want to go fish for offshore when weather gets good?
Yeah.
And, we were talking about the nighttime swordfish, like one of my favorite trips to go do, especially in a center console, just because, I'm not like a super early morning person. So, like, you can leave, the boat launch, at noon, get out there, do some bottom fishing, daytime sword fishing, deep dropping, go tuna fish to in-close rigs, and then set up and do the nighttime swordfish bite and catch the morning bite on the tuna again, and work your way back in. To me, that's like the most fun trip you can do. Bring you the Magma grill, some ribeyes out, have a cocktail, and catch some fish.
Man, I want to come be you.
That's right. I want to be Angelo when I grow up.
We got to do that trip. That's a fun trip. And
man.
you get back at a reasonable hour on Sunday. You're not up cleaning the boat till midnight. It's just a good setup. So we always talk about the daytime, but the nighttime fishery just as good and just as easy to access.
Man, you're talking about wahoo. I had a friend of mine, Joe Deere, who I was talking to this evening. He said he got out on a weed line the other day, caught a nice, like about a 45-pound wahoo on a diamond jig. He's on a weed line catching a bunch of chicken dolphin and was wrecking
Man, let me tell you.
And caught a nice fish on a diamond jig, and then started trolling, broke another fish off right out the boat.
Dang.
That was bigger than that one, He said he could see the condos from Orange Beach. That's how close he was in.
Pretty Water's been in pretty close.
So, and that's one thing with the wahoo. I feel like a lot of people wait to get into deeper water. This time of year and even into the summer, those fish, you can start fishing. If you start seeing bait, flying fish, schools of bonitas, the sardines and stuff in that 150-foot range, that's not a bad place to start fishing for them. There's a lot of big fish caught every year by people just traversing, and what they don't realize is, like, you can go put two stretch 30s or some kind of shaky bait on the flat lines and pull some islander and ballyhoo, that 150 to 350 foot of water just kind of zigzagging through there, and catch a ton of wahoo this time of year.
Man, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that the state record wahoo was caught like
9 or 11. That's right.
Yeah,
Yep.
9 miles south of the lighthouse.
Dolphin Island. That's correct.
Yeah, there's when they have the 3 standpipes out there.
That's right. I saw that fish. Yeah.
Unbelievable that you could catch a fish of that caliber in that close.
Well,
you know what I
and-
mean?
and-
You never know.
Well, that's funny you say
know?
that. Angelo was talking about, capitalizing on wahoo. If the water's pretty, if we're going out on a trip, I'll put the deep wahoo trollers out running 18, 20 knots just out of the farewell buoy. You can catch nice king mackerel. You can catch bonita for bait. You can catch wahoo. And we just put them out. You can't catch them in the boat.
That's right.
Just put them out.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Have you heard anything about dolphin?
Yeah, some nice fish being caught. Last week there was some nice blended water in on the dumping grounds and the elbow and out towards the spur. It wasn't green, but it wasn't blue. The fishing wasn't red hot, but there was some really big dolphin caught out that way and some mixed in wahoos. I just think, you got a 21-foot single engine center console. Like, that's pretty accessible, especially out of Orange Beach, but even Dolphin Island. That's not a really long run to get to that kind of stuff.
It's like, what, 45 miles or so?
I don't know. You just typically don't think that that's something you could do. I mean, we used to fish out there all the time in a 21 Cape Horn.
Yep. That's what, 45 miles or so out of Orange Beach?
Yeah.
Not that far at all.
Caught all kinds of fish out of that boat. Blue marlin, sailfish, white marlin.
Heck yeah. And looks like the weather might straighten up a little bit. Going to the weekend, look, Thursday and Friday it's going to blow, but looks like Saturday and Sunday might lay just maybe a taste, and might be accessible to some folks. So that's
yeah, we're going to have
plan.
Calm weather. Hopefully we'll get that into Memorial Day, so we'll have good snapper fishing weather. Plus the Mobile Big Game Club's Memorial Day tournaments that weekend.
Yep, that's what I was just about to say. Let's talk tournaments a minute.
Yeah, tell us about that Memorial Day tournament. I know we talked about the Rodeo, the Alabama Deep Sea Fishing Rodeo. I'm here just a little while ago. They're making some changes and to put on a tournament. And I heard Mobile Big Game's going to also kind of do something a little different from normal. You want to kind of get into that a little bit for us?
Yeah. So, and usually we have that captain's meeting on a Thursday. Well, like, I couldn't imagine anybody wanting to, like, because that's kind of a buffet type meal. Like, I don't think, like, that's probably appropriate right now. So we're doing away with the captain's party, but you can register online. You go to the Mobile Big Game Club website. You can just Google it, or mbfgc.com, and it'll take you to the website. And it's online registration. You can do your cash awards betting online. We're going to do a VHF checkout here at Orange Beach. If you leave out of Pensacola or you leave out of Dolphin Island, you videotape the captain or the boat owner, whoever's driving the boat, and your GPS as you're leaving. That way we know that you're leaving either past the prescribed time of noon on Friday. And then you'll come in, you'll weigh into the Mobile Big Game Club. You just back your boat up to the weigh dock. We'll take the fish off the boat for you, weigh them, hand them back to you, take your pictures. And it's just, we did away with awards a few years ago. So we'll mail you your check in the mail. It's not optimal, but I think there's some people wanting to go out. As a matter of fact, I know there's people wanting to go out and fish, because I think there was about 15 people pre-registered this morning for it. So
the first tournament is not this weekend, but next. This weekend is the 16th.
The OBBC was scheduled for this weekend.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure what they're doing. I think they're like trying to wait and see what this weather's going to do, and maybe do a Saturday, Sunday tournament or something like that.
Angelo, are they going to allow spectators to come down for the Memorial Day tournament, or how are y'all handling that?
There's enough room for a handful of people to sit there and get 6 feet apart, and we hadn't really discussed how we're going to handle that.
Understood.
But it's, we're not going to have like the bar set up and stuff like that like we normally do.
Well, and I kind of think that's mostly the direction most tournaments are going to be going from here forward, at least until we get to a
safer place.
Whatever the government tells us is
right.
Okay, you know what I mean? I know the rodeo this year, kind of shutting down anything spectator driven that we can, to
reduce crowds,
to deter people from
follow the government guidelines. I mean, that's what we're going to do. We're not going to do anything outside of that's all what the governor tells us we can and can't do.
Yep, and that's all we can do.
That's just the world we're in.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, for sure. So we were talking about earlier, man, weird times, but you got to do what you got to do. Better than not fishing the tournament.
Cool.
So we're excited. I'm fishing that, barring the weather stays decent.
Well,
nice.
Good deal. Well, Angelo, we're not going to let you get away.
Got to get that tip from you, man.
From giving us a tip. Butch is going to read into that for us, and then I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, this week's offshore tip is brought to us by Hilton's Offshore Charts. Hilton is presenting a cool tournament that you guys need to check out. The deadline to register is May 14th, 2020, so head over to www.mongo.offshore.com to register as soon as possible. Fish the Gulf of Mexico. Fishing dates are May 15th through October 15th, 2020. You can catch blue marlin, swordfish, tuna, mahi-mahi, and wahoo. Fish as often as you want. Weigh your Mongo at any Gulf region Mongo-approved weigh stations. Use your official weights from any Mongo-approved Gulf tournament. The largest Mongo in each category wins. There's a ton of cash on the line and a free year subscription to Hilton's for the first place in each category and a free subscription for a lifetime if you break a state record. Head over to www.mongooffshore.com to register and find out more. What you think for a tip this week, Angelo?
My
That's a
boy
cool tournament.
JD Cox putting on that tournament.
That's
with
right.
them.
That's right.
Oh, we're talking tips, and one thing about the nighttime swordfish bite, it's not neither one of these fisheries are real technical, but it's a different kind of fishing style where you're not getting to the bottom, so you don't need the sled and all that. But the moon phase plays a much bigger role, in my opinion, on the nighttime bite. And so what you got to think about, when we have a full moon, you have deep light penetration into the water. So the further that light goes down at night, if you took marine biology in high school, you would have found out that plankton move up from the depths to photosynthesize and feed in the evening. So, but they're looking for that right light kind of situation. So when we have a full moon, you have deep light penetration. So that is where the food chain kicks off. And what you want to do is, I fish 3 rods. And the first 2 rods are my balloon rods, and you're staggering away from the boat and you're staggering at different depths. So the first one, we take a Rapala line counter, we count that line off to 300 feet, and we move that at just about where you can't see that balloon anymore. White balloon with a green glow stick is the easiest balloon to see.
Hey,
and then
I'm gonna back you up.
The next one.
I'm gonna back
Go
you up
ahead.
just a little bit. I'm not sure if folks know what a balloon rig is. So if I'm understanding you correct, the way I use a balloon rig
Okay,
is
like a white party balloon.
well, but I mean, you basically use it as an outrigger, right? You tie the balloon to the line.
You tie the balloon right to your fishing line.
That's what I'm
what
saying.
you want to do is tie the balloon tight with your glow stick in it, and then tie it to your fishing line.
And then send the balloon out, and then your line goes down from the balloon. Right. Okay.
Because you're just drifting.
Sure. Go ahead. Sorry.
So, no, that's okay. Stop me, because sometimes I don't think about okay, you've never done this before.
That's right.
So, all right. So that first one is 300 foot down, and it's, let's say 500 feet behind the boat.
Yep.
So the next one you want to put it 200 foot down, and you want to put that one about 250 foot in front of the boat. And the third bait goes right, you fish that right off your tip with no balloon, and that goes 100 feet down. That's your standard setup.
Yep.
Now, if it's a full boon night, I might drop everything 100 foot deeper or 150 foot deeper. If it's a no moon night, the fish bite dang near the surface. So on those kind of nights, I'll fish 200 foot down, 100 foot down, and 50 foot down. And once you kind of where that bite is, that piece of water tends to get bit all night.
That makes sense.
That's really interesting.
Go a little deeper if the full moon's not out.
I have absolutely no knowledge about sword fishing, you know what I mean? But I would have thought exactly the opposite, you know what I mean? Full moon, I would think you would want to be fishing higher in the water column versus lower.
Sure.
Like you're saying, on a no moon, you definitely want your baits higher, like they're coming all the way up almost to the surface, when you're in
super deep water. Yeah.
That's really interesting.
It's an awesome tip, man. We appreciate that, Angelo.
It's counterintuitive to what you would think, isn't it?
That's right.
Certainly, man.
For sure, man. I'm always, every time I'm around Angelo, I'm always picking his brain about those swordfish. He's always got something interesting to tell me. By the time I get done picking his brain, I'm probably going to be the most knowledge-based sword fisherman that you people know out there.
Right. Well,
he's full of it, though, man. Golly. And that's still a fish I have never caught. Butch, I know.
Got to get you one.
Butch, I know that's one for you too.
Oh, dude, we should do that. Butch, when are we doing the trip with your brother?
We got to do one soon, man. We have one in May, but it got all messed up.
Hey, Angelo, we got to go catch one out of the bay boat, man. You think we can catch one out of the bay boat? You think
Dude, we could totally do the bay boat.
Man,
it's easy.
We need to do the bay
Just
boat,
pick
man.
the right afternoon.
Yep, that's right. Well, tell me about real estate down there, man. You got any hot listings? What's going on?
Dude, I've never seen the market as hot as it is right now. Like we're having a hard time just managing what the inbound buyers and sellers. That said, we really have a supply demand issue, but we do have some really nice listings. Beautiful listing on Ono Island, 5,500 square feet. I mean, whole house generator, geothermal heating and air. This thing is like an artisan dream. They brought people from all over the Southeast to come build it. It looks like a New England style beach cottage.
Wow.
Like 3.25 on that, completely furnished. The guy that owns it, everything he's ever done is first class. It's not for everybody, but if you're looking for a primo property, that's it. And then, we've got that on down to Bayfront condo on Wolf Bay, completely remodeled, 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, granite countertops, tile floors, like that new ceramic wood tile floor.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful condo, listed at 205. We kind of do for everything from that end on up to the super luxury. Got a couple new listings in Daphne that we took live today. On up to just a residential market. It's been interesting how resilient real estate market has been through the pandemic. I wouldn't have guessed it.
That's awesome, man. Well, people want to look at you and look at your real estate. What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Look, right now, the best way to find me is go to Facebook, look up the Coastal Connection. My phone number is stuff on there. Or you can just reach out to me directly, 850-287-3440, or Angelo at thecoastalconnection.com, and drop me a line on my email.
Awesome, buddy. Great report.
Angelo, next time you're on, dude, I'm gonna figure out a nickname for you. I got a nickname for you.
He's the only one that hasn't got a good nickname yet.
He's the daggum Coastal Connection.
That's like
I know the Coastal Connection's good, man, but
we got a better one.
I'm gonna think up one for you, bro. You better have your seatbelt on next time.
Hey, I'm looking forward to it.
Oh yeah. All right, homie. Hey, great report. Great talking to you as always, man. You take it easy over there, Hoss.
Y'all do the same. Good talking with y'all.
Man, that's another good Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report. A lot of good pearls of wisdom in there. A lot of good reports. Fishing's heating up, man. It's getting to be summertime.
Man, I don't think you could beat that report with a stick.
No doubt about that. No doubt. We got to do What'd You Learn today. I'm curious to see what you learned. Today is What Did You Learn is brought to us by MDH Foundation Repair. If your home is experiencing foundation problems, MDH Foundation Repair has the best solutions to fix it right and fix it now. The problems you see are only going to get worse, so don't deal with inefficient, unqualified, and pushy salesmen trying to sell you overpriced foundation repair products. The professionals at MDH Foundation will ensure you have a remarkable experience from the first meeting to the finished project. MDH Foundation Repair is redefining the construction industry and protect your most important asset, your home. Check them out at mdhfoundationrepair.com. Well, Captain Bridger, what did you learn this week, man?
Man, I tell you what I was most interested in. Of course, I don't live offshore in my world, in my work, what I do every day, and I'm just so enamored by swordfish. And what Angelo was talking about with the moon phase there just absolutely blew me away. That is so interesting to know because, like I said, when we were talking to him on the report, is you would think moon up, light out, that you would want to bring your
the
baits.
Fish would raise up.
You would bring your bait further up because
that's what I'm saying. You think the fish will come up with the light?
Yeah, because how I think about a fish in like lower light conditions is they see the bait working above them. True. And they can see a silhouette, through whatever light is there. And it's the exact opposite.
Sure.
With the swordfish, absolutely unbelievable. So
good stuff.
What I think he told us was, moon down, bring baits up, moon up, put them down 100, 150 feet deeper.
That's right.
Unbelievable. I would have never have even thought about that. That's why he is who he is.
That's right. The Coastal Connection.
That man has probably killed,
fishes a lot.
He's probably one of the best sword fishermen in Alabama. Of course, I'm probably speaking out of turn there because
he does good.
I don't know who the best is, but every time that I've ever sat down with Angelo and talked fishing with him,
he knows his stuff.
We always end up on swordfish, and that guy has got it down to a science.
No doubt.
It is so fascinating. That's truly a bucket list fish for me. I want to catch one so freaking bad.
Got to get you one.
I want to sink my teeth in one.
Let's do it. Eat the heart.
What'd you learn?
Man, I really like Captain Bobby's. Captain Bobby's segment was great, and he went to talking about how we're kind of in that transition from live bait or from artificials being on fire to live bait, and knowing when that transition is with the competition with the ready available natural bait in the area. and knowing when that transition is, and just keeping some live bait on hand. And while you're using the artificials, throw some in. You have a couple guys throwing live, have a couple guys throwing artificial, and that'll tell you that, exactly like Captain Bobby said, those fish will tell you what they want to eat.
That's right. Kind of saw the same thing with the Ultimate.
That's right. He said the same thing.
Yep. He was catching them good on Fishbite last week,
yep.
and then this week is
sand fleas was what's up.
Having to use sand fleas.
Yep, same deal. That's right.
And just like Captain Bobby said, and I say this too, let the fish tell you what they want.
That's
know
right.
what I mean? And something I do, of course we're not like just. We're going every day. We have to go every day. So it's like, I buy shrimp and I can keep them alive day to day to day. You know what I mean? I don't have to go chase them down every time. So I know that's not always optimal for everybody, but it
can.
Well, I tell you one thing, it makes you get good at keeping bait alive.
That's true too.
It keeps them good.
Get your live well right.
Yep, get your live well in there. Make sure you have some air bubbles on them, some recirculation, the whatnot. But I tell you, I am really looking forward to the next couple of weeks. We've got, some great tides this week, helping really clean the water up down there. The water down around the island and the southern end of the bay just looks unbelievably good. And I'm just so tickled.
Yep, fishing's about to be sparking off for sure.
For what's ahead of us in the next couple of weeks, it's going to be fun.
Sweet, man. Yep, absolutely, man.
Like I told Angelo, man, put your seatbelt on, hang on.
That's right.
It's coming.
Fishing's coming. Summer's coming. Yep.
That's it, man.
I appreciate you co-hosting me this week, man. I enjoyed it.
Anytime, man. I've definitely enjoyed it, and hope everybody gets something out of it.
No doubt. You got any openings coming up? What's the best way to get in touch with you? Folks want to book a trip?
Yeah, I've got a handful of openings in like the latter part of May and then the latter part of June. Just a handful, not a whole lot. My book's looking really good.
No doubt.
Thankfully, with what we've got going on, my book's looking great. But I do have some openings. Coldbloodedfishing.com is my website. You can find my contact info on there. Facebook's a great place. Instagram as well. Find me.
Yep, easy to find. Just reach out to us as well. We'll get you in touch with him.
That's it.
All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up this week. You guys please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you'd like us to email you the podcast each week, head over to greatdaysoutdoors.com/ASFR, and we'll send you the new show each week. You guys make sure you're following Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report on Facebook for those updates as well. You guys keep whacking them. We'll talk to you next week.
This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report has been brought to you by Daycool Heating and Air, your home performance specialists. Contact them at 251-260-3858 or check them out online at www.daycoolair.com. License number AL07028.
This week's Saltwater Fishing Report is brought to you by Angelo DePaola, the Coastal Connection with eXp Realty, your boating and beach property specialist. Check me out on Facebook at Angelo DePaola Realtor, the Coastal Connection, or call me direct at 850-287-3440.
Also brought to you by Coastal Conservation Association of Alabama. Check them out at ccaalabama.org. Also brought to you by Geico. Call Ron Davis, Geico agent, at 251-445-0053 or visit him online at geico.com/mobile-al.
And also Fishbites. Fishbites stay on the hook longer than any natural bait. Check them out at fishbites.com.
Also brought to you by Advanced Transmission in Spanish Fort. Give the professionals a call who have been trusted on the Gulf Coast for over 25 years at 251-626-6061 or check them out online at www.advanced-transmission.com.